transition when folks were transitioning to online classes too, reminding students to make sure you turn off your camera if you're taking a nap during your class or, making some food or going to the washroom, like don't bring your computer with you. So, yeah.
I never heard that. And I think somebody did that was in municipal politics.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. Before we get started, I just want to say to everyone, would you please mute your own mic for now, and until we get Maggie's rules here before we get started. I'm not going to be walking today. Something's come up I have to take care of. So, but the walk is at Lee Park. I changed it on my calendar and forgot to change it on the website. So it's still at Lee Park. Okay. All right. So we're going to get started. Maggie, I will make you, I'll put you up as the spotlight for everyone. And I was doing some research on you, and of course I know who you are, and I can't tell you how excited we are that you're our deputy mayor. But I went on your website and I thought, boy, you don't even have to say anything. All we have to do is go to your website. But that's going to be everybody's homework today, to go on your website.
Well, thank you.
It's very, very inspiring. But so I had asked that you give us some insight into your hopes and dreams for the future, and your leadership style, your photos, and your presentation during the election. To me, said it all. And again, I have to go from my own perspective. I am just so excited that you are there with 4 other women, which is an amazing first for North Bay. And take it away, Maggie. You're on.
Thank you.
We'll have questions too. Do you want people to ask questions?
Please. Yeah, please do. Yeah, you can either
Okay.
ask questions while I'm speaking. I can't see everyone, so you might just have to unmute and interrupt, and that's fine. Or if you'd like at the end, you can ask questions at that point too.
Sure, I can go to gallery because it's pretty hard for me to scroll through and see everybody. I'll go.
Perfect.
Okay.
Perfect.
Away we go.
Well, thank you all for allowing me to come in today to chat about me and the city, and where things are going to be going in the future. The election was a really great opportunity to meet and get to hear from a lot of folks. And then on election night, having the honor to be the top vote getter was very humbling, and also gave me a lot of courage, I would say, and a desire to really take that belief that people have put into me to bring things along that we had talked about during the election campaign. So I am born and raised North Bay. I grew up here and ended up going to Nipissing University to study history and political science. After graduating from Nipissing, I was able to get a job at the university as a student recruitment officer. So I would travel the province and get to talk to high school students about attending the university and moving to North Bay, which was kind of went hand in hand, because not only were you talking to them about choosing a university, but also what North Bay was all about and finding the right fit for people. Because as we all know, every city and every university has unique characteristics. And so you had to find the right people who want that experience as well. And so one of the big things with North Bay is the nature and the small community and the connection with folks. And you could really tell when you talk to people about the trails and the waterfront and all the things you can do in and around the city. That's also what helped really draw them in. And so after I was a recruitment officer for a few seasons, I was able to transition into the president's office at the university and work directly with the president. And in that role, I have been organizing convocation graduation every year. So I've been doing that for going on 9 years now, but then also really got to learn more about the community role that the university plays within the city. We're not only there to educate students and give them an opportunity to learn and get involved, but also the role of connecting the university with the city. So I've been working now in the president's office for 6.5 years. Really fortunate, really enjoy getting to work with people and helping build connections between community and the city. And then I've also, previous to being on council, I've been involved with a few different boards of directors, including Near North Crime Stoppers, which was really a fun board and a really great opportunity to see how we can help solve crime and support the North Bay Police Services and other services across the region. I've also been on the North Bay District Chamber of Commerce Board, and I chaired the Young Professionals Committee, which was a really great opportunity to hear from folks under the age of 30 and 40 about how they wanted to help shape the future of the business community in North Bay, and also have programming that reflected their interests and engagement opportunity too. And I'm currently the chair still of the Lindsay Welt Center for Children, which is a local daycare in town. When I took on the role at the city, I just couldn't give it up. I really enjoy that board and working with Shane, the executive director, and learning about, how the daycare system also works in our community. And now as deputy mayor, I sit on the North Bay Police Services Board, the District of Nipissing Social Service Administration Board, Heritage North Bay, and FNUM, which is the Federation of Northern Ontario Municipalities. So a really great opportunity to join different boards across North Bay, but then also the province, to understand, what's going on in the community and be able to bring that back to our council meetings to make sure that, we're reflecting the interests of what's going on. And one that I'm really interested in really diving into, and kind of one of my aspirations, is DSAB, which is the Social Service Administration Board, because their portfolio oversees housing and homelessness. It oversees paramedic services, children's services, which is daycares, and also Ontario Works. And so it's a really big organization, and they have a lot of important mandates. And as we all know, there are challenges that we're facing with housing and homelessness. And so having the opportunity to sit on their board of directors is really, I think, going to be important to understanding what as a city we can be doing, but then also making sure that we're bringing together all of the community organizations and volunteer groups that are each doing their own part to help folks who are experiencing those challenges, to make sure that we can address it. And so also in the role as deputy mayor, whenever Peter is unable to attend a meeting, I get to take on the role as the chair of the meetings. And then also whenever if Peter is unable to attend an event, I can attend as well and bring greetings on behalf of the city. So I've been able to attend a few events so far. And again, it's just really nice to be able to chat with folks and see what's happening in the community and all the good things that are going on behind the scenes that we might not hear about right away. But there's a lot of things in the works, from businesses to support organizations. And getting to speak with people has been a really big bonus, I would say, over the past few months of being the deputy mayor. And also in that role, I am budget chief. So I get to lead the discussions on the budget, and all councillors sit on the budget committee. So it's not just myself who is responsible for putting the budget together, but at the end of the day, I have to be the one to chair it and ensure that we're all, as much as we can be, on the same page and moving forward on accepting those budgets. And with what we're seeing with the inflation costs, the costs going up across the board for homeowners, when it comes to other costs of buying food and paying for other types of bills, we understand, and we're really hammering home to the city that it's going to be a challenge to, really ask our community and ask our taxpayers to also take on more of a hit when it comes to our property taxes and other taxes, when we're already seeing those costs go up across the board. And, not everyone has the ability to increase their own personal revenue or income. And so we have to really keep in mind the fact that these costs, when they're downgraded onto our citizens, we have to really be aware of what services are we providing, how are we providing them, and how can we make sure we're not hurting them even more at the end of the day. And so already with our water and wastewater operating budget discussions, we've spent, I think it was over 6 hours, just really talking and letting everyone, all the counselors, speak to what they're hearing from the community to understand that, we have basic services that we must provide, but we also need to keep in mind that it can hurt people at the end of the day if we're continuing to increase costs, but we also have expectations of providing services. So helping the city find a balance between what we're offering and how we're asking folks to cover those costs is going to be
Can
really
I comment?
important.
I just want to say thank you, Maggie. Thank you. To make that connection, there's a level of empathy there. And I know that's one of your pillars.
Mhm.
And that alone, I don't mind paying if I know that somebody's listening.
Yeah. And
Not that personally, but I mean, I don't, not to a limit, mind you, but
yeah, no, it's really fair. And, when we look at the demographics of North Bay, and when we look at the median income in North Bay, and then when we look at the costs to live in North Bay and in northern communities, most of the northern communities have the highest tax increases. And, some of it has to do with the density of our population, but also just the challenges of living in the north and not being in the GTA or in Southern Ontario. So that's when we can then turn and say to Mayor Chirico and to the city staff that we really need to be advocating to the provincial government that, living in the north isn't cheap, but, there's a reason why we live here, and there's a reason why these communities need to exist, and we need our fair share in extra funding or equitable funding that reflects those costs, because it's unfair when we're compared sometimes to our counterparts in Southern Ontario. Debbie, I see your hand up.
Oh, good. I didn't know if you could see me.
Yeah.
I hate interrupting you. You're on such a roll there. But before we move away from that subject of property taxes, pardon me, would you not agree that one of the best ways to ensure that our property taxes stay at a sustainable level is to bring in industry that will help support our tax base? And how do we do that?
Yeah, and that's a great question. And I think the previous council, they were really focused on that growth mandate of trying to attract companies and industries that would also bring more people to live in North Bay and more jobs. And so I think it's a balance of finding those industries that want to move up here. And so the Economic Development Department is tasked with working with businesses and helping them navigate the systems of relocating to the city, and that would help attract as well. And I also think part of it is that, even we have the university and the college that attract thousands of young individuals every year to come and relocate to our city. But then once they graduate, they want to stay. They've stayed for 4, 6, sometimes more years, but then finding them the appropriate jobs for them to be able to stay here can be a challenge too. And so that's where I think making sure that we have those institutions working with the city to have those conversations of who are we graduating and how can we keep them here. And it also goes into housing and affordable housing. And affordable housing isn't just for helping individuals transition from maybe the low barrier shelter into temporary housing, into housing, but also just different types of housing in North Bay, because not everyone can start off with buying a starter home. They just want a tiny apartment downtown. They might not need parking. And so also working with our realtors and our developers and different building owners to have them create more housing or apartments or condos that are desirable for individuals who want to just start off in the housing chain, and those who might want to downgrade and downsize, I should say, into a smaller unit, so that the housing market, you have people who are starting in a starter home, going into a larger home potentially, and then moving up. You also have people who are moving down. So it all kind of goes hand in hand with attracting businesses, having the jobs for the people that are here, but then also having places for them to live in our community. So there are counselors as well who have been really pushing for urban densification. So instead of always building new development or new neighborhoods in the city, where we already have neighborhoods, and typically more in central part of the city, building up more and densifying that, because the services are already there. We already have water and sewer running in those areas. We already have roads. We already have transit. We don't have to create new. We can more densify those areas and make it more attractive too. And Jory, I see your hand up. Oh, you're on mute.
Thank you so much for being with us today and bringing your perspectives. I was so looking forward to seeing you today. I was so impressed with your presentation to us prior to the election, and I was quite grateful to see that you had been elected. I watched the whole presentation by Mr. Rennick to the council the other evening. Having been a member of a board of directors for an organization for a number of years myself, I found his comments to be quite insightful and really something for us to consider, especially where he brings up that we need to relook at how the budget is created by having all the departments go back to the drawing board and start with looking at what were the actual expenditures in each department last year, instead of looking what they budgeted for and then maybe putting a 10% increase on that for this year. The other part that I found interesting was his point that we should not be using our current reserves to lessen the current burden through taxes. We need to keep those reserves for when they're actually needed. So I'm not sure how council members have considered his presentation, and is there any thought by the members to implement some of the suggestions he presented, because I found them very valid.
Yeah, and definitely. I've actually, I've sat down and met with Mr. Rennick and heard his comments as well on a one-on-one basis. And I do think that he brings forward a lot of valid points. And that was one of the things that, right when we got into council this term, we started in November. And so we were already delayed on starting the typical budget process that has been the style that they've used for many years. And having been on other boards of directors and at the university in an executive role, we do it differently too. And so I've been working really closely with city staff to understand, so why are we doing it this way? How come we don't have the final numbers before we're budgeting and projecting for the future? And what we've asked city staff specifically is that we understand that possibly and likely with the 2023 budget, because there's many of us, there's 6 of us, I believe, around the table that are new to city council, and that this is the way that they have done it, that we would continue with the 2023, the way they have done it, but we want to see different, and we want to bring in different methods when we move forward with the next budgets. And so we've already asked that the financial staff bring forward all the capital reserves, all the reserves, for us to understand where all these pockets of money are, what are they supposed to be used for, or what have they typically been used for. And council has the ability to edit and repropose the policies that surround the reserves and their usages and their existence. And that way we can really focus on, it's important to have reserves, but are we making sure that we're not just using them because we're kind of like, oh yeah, this year it's a little hard, yeah, let's throw some money at it. We're actually using them for the purpose that they exist for. And so I do think that Mr. Rennick's comments were heard, and I'm actually going to go back, and now that it's been recorded, and write down a lot of the points that he made, because they were very valid. And I have also learned that the current database operating system that the financial services uses has been around since 1999. And it has so many patchwork solutions that it has become, you need to have, like, as much as it's technology, you still need to have so many people literally taking from one and putting into an Excel sheet, and it's just not conducive. And they recognize that, but they've over the years, it's been brought forward to council, but then it's been taken away, or they did have a third party that was going to look at bringing in a new system that would revolutionize the entire process. But then that company actually said, actually, no, we're not interested in doing that. And so there has been some challenges, but we've recognized that, you know, this system, if we ask for a financial report, it shouldn't have to take city staff days or weeks to get it back to us. Or when we want to know the final numbers from the previous year, it shouldn't take 3 to 4 months for them to be able to pull it together. But they've identified that they have some really bad barriers when it comes to this system, that if they could have a system that worked with them instead of against them, we could really change that. And so Mayor Chirko and I have met with the CFO, and we're able to hear from her, you know, how, you know, yeah, if she had better tools, her staff would be working a lot more efficiently. And they've even recognized that at the end of the day, it's all comes down to this, there's a system and it's just working against us. And we, you know, we want to be doing the budget differently and better, and starting it more or earlier. And when we want to get figures and facts from the finance office, it shouldn't bog them down or take them away from other projects because the tools aren't sufficient. And so yeah, Mr. Rennick did make quite a few good points, and I was really glad to hear him speak. And I think that a lot of the folks around the table were able to hear his comments. And as we go into our the status quo budget process, we're going to have that in the back of our minds of, hey, you know, we've already been flagged that we could be doing this better and differently. And once we get our feet wet with this budget, we're going to go right into the 2024 budget. It's one of those years where we do 2 budgets in 1 year because of the council coming in so late. And so we can really say, hey, you know, we did it this way, and we've all been raising flags of why are we doing this way? It feels like, you know, backwards. And the, you know, city staff is going to say, yep. And so here, let's try and do it this way. So I'm very hopeful.
Thank you.
Any other questions on the budget process? It's a big one. Roseanne. Oh, you're on mute.
Hi, Maggie. Thanks for coming. I mean, it sounds like in a short period of time, you have really delved into your role. I'm impressed. I'm very impressed because your job was pretty all encompassing. I just have 2 questions about council moving forward, and we're talking about affordable housing, does council have anything on their plate with regards to assisting seniors with, staying in their own homes with all these identified increases, but seniors remaining on fixed incomes? I would be concerned about a lot of seniors being able to meet their debt load. The other question I have, and it's again about affordable housing, builders are building massive homes in the city where it's no starter person can ever afford those homes, but it seems to be that's where the money is. Is there any way, and I'm not sure this is possible, that council could support a smaller builder, because these are big builders, big companies, smaller builders in building smaller units? I see those units out in Corbeil. They're kind of like little row houses, but they're small units, 2 bedrooms, they have some back space, they have some front yard. If that's viable for the city of North Bay.
Yeah, so great questions. On your first question, Councillor Raybosch actually brought forward that if we are, there are people that can afford tax increases, but for those who can't, and seniors do fall into that category, having some sort of hardship program or setting aside some funds within the city so that for individuals who are on fixed income or on pension, and those don't always increase with inflation costs and the realities of those costs every year, that they could apply to have some sort of credit or rebate or reduction in their costs. And so it was actually passed with the water and wastewater motion so far. So for the water meter motion that we would, was it? No, that's going to be coming with the operating budget that we will be in the water and wastewater operating budget when it comes forward, that there will also be a motion for council to bring in some sort of relief hardship program as well to support seniors who might have a challenge to meet those increases in the costs. And I do agree with you about the buildings, and even the houses that they're building, I might not ever get into them. And my husband and I both have full-time jobs. And so looking at encouraging developers to focus on the more affordable type of row houses or shared amendments for individuals who, have shared lawns, and that way they still have their green space, but they don't have to maintain the yard themselves, or they can take that shared responsibility. And Corbeil is a great example. So I think that'll be one of those conversations we'll be having as a council on, what programs does the city currently have to encourage that type of development, and what kind of programs should we be bringing in to attract them. And there are some, areas of the city that we can still develop if we want to build outwards. But when we do, we should be working with the developers and those who own the land to say, this is the type of housing that we need in the city. We don't necessarily need more large homes with 4 bedrooms. We need more homes for folks to be able to leave their home that might be 4 bedrooms to move down to a home that's 1 floor with 2 bedrooms, and more reasonably affordable for them as well. And so as a council, we can work with our planning and building services department as well, so that when they're talking to contractors and the smaller ones as well, to let them know that, we're hearing from folks that this is what they're looking for. And so, how can we help you make it affordable for you as well to turn a profit on building them, but also building what we actually need.
So would a smaller contractor then have to apply to city council, or would you reach out to smaller builders?
It could go both ways. I think that if we communicate outwards that that's what we're looking for, that will hopefully encourage them to want to come forward with their ideas. But then also we can go out and seek them too, and create those types of programs. And I saw in the chat too that Sturgeon also has those housing units. And yeah, we can reach out to them and chat with them about, you know, what did you do? Like, and same with Corbeil, you know, like, who did you work with? How did you make this desirable for the builders to build this style? And then we can replicate that here. And Linda, I saw that you had your hand up.
Yeah. I do. I'm thanking you for explaining the problems at City Hall, because my impression of City Hall is it's very inefficient. The staff is very inefficient. And so having that explanation about the computer software and how it all, you know, if it gets upgraded, then efficiency increases. Because I as a taxpayer, you kind of think, my money, I don't get where my money is going. Now, the other thing, following up on seniors and low income housing and whatever, everybody in this group knows I'm on a soapbox for getting seniors bus passes, either $100 a year, either free, or make it $100 a year and maybe put a time thing on it. They can't ride the bus between 8 and 10, you know, or 7 and, you know, when people are going to work, but they can ride it from 10 to 2 and then anytime after 6. But I keep harping at this and hoping someday it will happen. Okay, so that's all I have to say. Thanks.
No, and that's a great point. And, you know, we have a lot of space on our transit to accommodate more people riding. And
Right.
so if we make the price more affordable, we could be attracting a larger number versus having a higher price and having less folks using the services.
Well, in our discussions on aging with Canadore, the big thing was to get a senior would go to the mall and wander around for a coffee. Say they live in West, or say they live on Main Street or wherever. But at $3 each way, that's $6. When they get there, they can't afford a coffee.
Yep.
So, and they're not going to spend $6 to ride the bus. Whereas if they can get on a bus for free and then ride around for the afternoon on the bus for entertainment, who knows? But just get them out socializing and not so solitary.
Yep. And I completely agree. And that can be something that we can bring up in our budget deliberations as well, for the city to look at that type of program. And, you know, transit already costs the taxpayer money. It's not one of those break-even programs or services that currently exist. But if we bring more ridership, that, you know, at a more affordable price, that could work as well. And it's the same too with if you're under the age of 16, you know, riding the bus, because there's students that they don't get a school bus because they're within a certain distance from their school. But if they could just hop on the city bus, then they're going to be riding it. And, you know, we already have that space. We're going to be encouraging them to move around, and then they're going to be spending money around the city too. But then they also might choose to get a bus pass later on as well. But then also making it more affordable for seniors. I think that you know, that should be a focus as well. So I will definitely make sure to bring that forward. And if they say they need to do a study or need to do a report, you know, that's, you know, a likely answer as well too, just for them to understand what the costs might be. But at the end of the day, like, our buses are not overflowing. Like, we have room on the buses for more people to ride them. And so if we have more affordable passes for individuals, then, you know, the economic spin-off of them going downtown or going down West Ferris, or them going to the mall or going to the McEwen plazas, is going to help overall, you know, keep that economy going as well.
Mm-hmm. I have a comment on that. I like to say that I think I'm in a position now when I'm the only driver, and I don't like driving at night. I can tell you that. I might be tempted to take the bus if it were more affordable and there was more ridership because you want people on that bus, and that would make, go to the Capitol Center, for example, I just don't want to drive at night. So
Or in the
it's
winter
something-
time too,
in the
it's-
winter, yeah, exactly. So that's something. And the other thing that comes into my mind is, to me, I've always felt, and I think over all my years here and with Living Fit, especially, we as a group, I think I'm reflecting this right, I felt that the council and the staff are there to serve community. That's what they're there for. And if we get that kind of vibe from City Hall, which hasn't been there for a very long time, if we can get that kind of vibe, that to me means a real sense of collaboration and a real sense of honoring the people who live here. It's nice to bring new people to North Bay. I'm to a certain point, but we need to serve the people who actually have lived here and live here now. And that's my thought. And I think we're kind of on the same wavelength on that one. But anyways, any other questions? I do see the hands occasionally come up.
I see Debbie and Bonnie.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, Debbie, and then Bonnie.
Okay, thanks. I'm just afraid we're going to run out of time before anyone addresses the whole homelessness addictions problem, Maggie. I don't even know. I don't even have a question. Can you please address it?
Yeah, it's one of my, like, a priority is a singular word, but it's one of my priorities. It's definitely up there. I get emails from folks weekly, if not daily, expressing their concerns with supporting. And it's not just complaining or saying they're a nuisance. It's actually, there's a lot of empathy and just a real question of what is going on and why isn't more happening quicker. And I don't know if it was COVID that really exacerbated it, or if we've just been watching this this challenge grow over the years, and to really step in and do things differently and have folks, at all levels understand that, this isn't right. We need to be doing more action and there needs to be more solution. And so that's where on DSAB I'm really focused on that piece, specifically for the Social Service Administration Board, because it is in their mandate. It is technically a provincial and federal, it's all levels of government that have a role to play, and municipal too. And I don't discount that, but if it's a challenge that we're seeing across the province, across the country, where's the strategy, where's the funding, where's the plan, and how can we make sure that we're not saying, okay, we'll build a shelter, it's going to take us 5 years, like that. There's people who are having challenges today that we need to be supporting. And I have spent a few days at the AIDS committee and with different other service organizations speaking directly to those who are experiencing homelessness. And it's eye-opening, it's heartbreaking, and it just, they tell you exactly the barriers. They get this far and then they make one wrong move and then they're back out on the street and having to start over again, trying to get support. And there's hundreds of people who are needing a place to call home, and we all have the luxury, or most of us have the luxury, of having a living room to spend our days in, even if just to spend time. And they have a shelter for at night, but they don't have somewhere to hang out during the day. And so we have now the warming centers during the day, and it's a Band-Aid. And I understand that it takes time, but I don't think time's on our side. And I don't think that we can keep saying that it takes time. we need some real action. And I know there's a lot of volunteer groups in North Bay. There's Boots on the Ground, there's the Compassion Committee, there's different organizations and groups and volunteer groups through the churches in town that are stepping up and, filling really big gaps in support on a volunteer, from their pocket basis to make a difference. And the challenge is that some of them are operating a bit siloed because there's just, so many of them. And the problem is that we don't have like a real lead or direction. And so there's quite a few of us around the council table that want to figure out, how we can create more direction and work more collaboratively together. And the city does have what's called the Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan, and a coordinator at the city who's responsible for implementing that plan. And it's great. It's great to have that plan, and it really identifies a lot of the challenges with mental health and addictions and homelessness, and how they, go hand in hand in some areas, and how some of them, have their own challenges. And
That's Brent Kalinowski.
yes,
He's going to be a guest in February.
oh, he's fabulous. I chatted with him one-on-one as well, and he's got a lot of great ideas. But there's, I think, 70 organizations in North Bay that have some sort of role in supporting mental health, addictions, and homelessness.
Oh my God.
How can we all, get on the same page so that we're not, if someone's having a hard day, that we're not, sending them over here. Oh, well, you actually have an addiction, so you need to go here. Oh, well, you have this, so you should be going here. Or, oh, it's, you can only check in at 2 p.m. Oh, you don't have a phone. Like, how do you keep track of time? Like, the barriers are just, we have a lot of supports, but they're just not structured for the people who are trying to access them.
And there's silos.
Yeah.
There's so many silos, and that collaboration word, it's hard to get into that. We're doing Clean Green Beautiful is doing growing resilient neighborhoods, and Brent is sitting supporting us with that at municipalities. And so is the police service. And that is a nice collaboration. But you're right, 70 organizations. That's a tough one.
Yeah.
Well,
And
thanks, Maggie. I appreciate you even addressing it. I know there is no easy or simple solution. And just on a personal note, after years, a whole career working in the ODSP field, I was so glad to see Lana Mitchell. If anybody can make some inroads, it would be her. So I'm anxious to see what she brings to the table on this subject. Thanks.
Yeah.
Same. When I saw like Lana get in, I was so happy. And I hadn't really had the chance to work with Lana prior to meeting her through the election, but I had heard from so many people, the impact she has and the drive. And I really do think that she's going to bring a lot. And she's on the Social Service Administration Board as well, which is fantastic. And another person too is Justine Mala.
Yeah.
She works at the health unit, but her background is communications, but it's also in working in these areas as well. And she is very empathetic too. And so I think that we have seen a shift in some perspectives, and recognizing that, they might, like in the spectrum of it, they might not be paying taxes, or they might not be whatever, but they are still people, and they still live here, and we still have a right and a duty to be helping them and doing what we can to make sure that everyone in our community is supported.
Leave no one behind.
Yeah. And I saw there's a question
Bonnie.
from,
Sorry,
oh, yeah,
Bonnie.
Bonnie,
Bolter.
yes.
Yeah, Bonnie, go, and then Jory has a comment.
Yeah.
Okay.
My question
Or a
is
question.
back to housing, but building houses. I just would like to know, like, who really has informs what happens with property when builders are building, because we're seeing huge swashes clear cut, and then they sit empty, or like up on the airport hill, just keeps going and going. Apparently they've clear cut again more. Like, is there any legislation that says, you know, that for every acre they cut down, they have to replant some trees, particularly on the escarpment where, I mean, we could end up with, you know, a lot of erosion. So, and is there green belts built in there? Is the city looking at building some green areas? I have called Mattawa Conservation Authority. I did call Scott Robertson when the land in front of the hospital was cut. He said it's private property. We don't have any say, but as a city, can you not implement some
Green development.
green or some responsibility for the builders? And then my other quick question would be at the end, if you could just mention what's happening with the arena.
Yep. Yeah, so that's a great point. And we actually had an education session with the building services department at the city. And we talked about, you know, they have their hands tied by a couple of different legislated policies and plans from the provincial government. So even whereas before they could approve development, and we could as a council say, but put this clause in there. There's a lot of things now where we're not allowed to do that. And so, you know, they're operating through the lens of, you know, provincially approved legislation and a growth plan for Northern Ontario. But I can find out more, Bonnie, about, you know, what type of encouragement or clauses we could put into development agreements that say, you know, you can develop this, but you must also plant this many trees, or you must have, you know, this type of green space saved. We do rely quite a bit, as you mentioned, on the Mattawa Conservation Authority, and they look at wetlands and different areas of the city and the region that we need to make sure that we're taking care of. But
their hands have been tightened a bit too now, so it's
yes,
made it really difficult.
Yes, exactly. And so the city, as you mentioned, could probably look into possibly passing something where we create some green belt style protected areas of, you know, areas where, like Laurier Woods, where we really value the protection of those environments and how we can make sure that they're not being impacted. And the escarpment is another great example. I remember one time I was walking home, and it's a bit of a short story, but I was walking home. I dropped off my coworker's vehicle at the airport, and then I looked at Google Maps and I said, well, there's trails that go straight from the airport through the escarpment down to my apartment on Johnston, which is off a ski club. So I'm going to just drop off the vehicle, and I'm going to, you know, hike / figure out my way home, and, you know, gave some people some of my coordinates and let them know what I was doing in case it went awry. But I was walking along the escarpment, and all of a sudden came upon this wall of clear-cut trees, and the path was gone. And I'm going, what is, like, I don't see what's going on here. And it was part of, you know, some new development. And it was really kind of like, whoa, like I just came upon this, and this is, like, you know, to me, beautiful forest, and like, how could we be developing this? But, you know, you know, if people own the land, you know, they do have certain rights to how they develop it. Do I always agree with it? No. But how can we as a city make sure that we're doing our part to keep North Bay green and forested, and not just seeking profit? You know, that's a balance that we really should be bringing in as well.
Thanks.
And
Thanks,
then
Maggie. We have to move to a.
yeah, so I see the dispatch transit system. It's a great question. I know there's still challenges with the dispatch transit where you have to kind of, after certain hours or on the weekends, kind of request the bus. You know, not everyone has a cell phone. Not everyone can download the app. Not everyone has data. And so I do recognize that there are barriers, and even with the reintroduction of students back on campus at the university and the college, there was some challenges because, their class ends at 9 p.m. and then there's hundreds of them wanting to get on the bus, but if only one of them requested the bus, how do we, there's the routes, so there's challenges there where they had to kind of go back and be like, oh, actually there's a demand again for certain routes to just exist and not have the dispatch. They did do some studies on the dispatch where it is a bit more economical and a bit more green to not be doing the full routes and just be bringing people from point A to point B. But also, I still have some hesitation about the dispatch system because, not everyone has access to a cell phone or the app to be able to request it. People might forget that they have to request it and then they're waiting at a bus stop and the bus never comes. So yes, I think there's still room to change that and, make it better. Family physicians, that's, I see the comment also that it's not just, it's seniors, but it's also all people in North Bay. I personally, my family physician had to step back in the past year. And so I went from having a family physician to not. And it's a real challenge. And it's, I've also heard that there's been a few provincial cuts where even the telemedicine, now we went from this one clinic having 15 doctors to 4 doing telemedicine, and that people now have to pay $12. And it's just, that we need some more advocacy there because either the province isn't allowing enough physicians to graduate from their respective College of Medicines that we really should be focusing on, or we should be pushing for NOSM, which is the Northern Ontario School of Medicine, because part of their mandate is that individuals that attend their program, kind of get a bonus if they stay in Northern Ontario and continue their practice. And so, how can we help them champion keeping more physicians in the North? Because the wait list right now, basically if you get a family doctor, you've won the lottery. And, healthcare is prevention. We end up seeing everyone having to go to the hospital, or, they're not getting that regular support. So then, their whatever health challenges they might be facing get exacerbated and then, or missed. And then it's going to cost our provincial health system even more. So yeah, I do think that the city has a role to play in helping attract it, but also in helping advocate provincially that, we need more physicians, and, we need them to have a strategy to make that happen. I also have one question that was sent to me about the methadone clinics on Main Street or in the general downtown area. And so there are, from my understanding, I think there are several methadone clinics in the downtown area. And some of them, I believe, are privately owned type of things. They aren't necessarily provincially overseen by other healthcare. So it's, there's a balance. They're located where they are because of the accessibility factor, and also because of, likely where they can find a space to rent. But also, there's challenges with, you can provide an individual with methadone, but then again, where are they going to go once they leave the building? What kind of other wraparound supports are involved? And so there should be more to it than just, providing them with that one need. They really should be, allowing or having or being responsible for making sure that the individuals who are accessing those services are, it's almost like a I don't want to call it like a user clinic. I forget the name of it, but a place where people can use their drugs safely Because, it is proven that there's less overdoses, but, if we're just allowing folks to, get what they need, and then again, sending them out on the street, they're going to just hang out on that street, because where else do they have to go? So I think the question of, what should we be doing about the amount and the location of methadone clinics should be going hand in hand with, what are we doing with supporting individuals with addictions and providing them with a central space with all their services that they can access without those barriers in one location, or in a central location, or in central, I don't mean necessarily downtown, but one location, instead of telling them that they have to now go all the way over here to get food, all the way over here to sleep, all the way over here to take a shower. We just create a transient group of individuals, and then as a community, we're wondering, what's going on, and that should be another thing that we take into consideration too, with mental health, housing, and addictions.
All right. Any last comments, Maggie? We've got about 2 minutes left.
Yeah, I just want to let everyone know that my door is always open. I don't want conversations to be necessarily one time. I say my piece, or I hear you and we never speak again. So if there's anything from today or anything in the future where you want to touch base, you can always email me or call me. We can get together for coffee. Would love to come back, Harriet, as well.
You are coming back. Don't worry.
Yeah, if folks
Coming
have,
back,
yeah,
for
if
sure.
folks want more updates, that type of thing. Once we really get into, our first year of council, I think that we're all quite gung-ho to see things really change, and help the city staff and city hall evolve and revolutionize in areas, so that there's more trust built between the community and in the city, and understanding our roles.
Maggie, I have to tell you, rah.
Yay!
I've got your website up here on the screen, and I encourage everybody to go and have a look at Maggie's. If you want to pick me up, or if you're having kind of a dull day, come in and read this, because it's just amazing. And
Thank you.
we wish you the best, and we are with you. We may not always agree, never know, but
That's okay.
I have a sense of a real sense of collaboration that's going to happen, and also a communication of listening, and that's to the community, which is really very welcoming for all of us. I'm going to have the other counselors on. I'm starting with the new counselors, but we will definitely have you back.
Thank you. Yeah, and that's
We're
the
okay
thing
with
is,
that.
yeah, oh, for sure.
Yeah.
And I know we won't always agree, and I really want to hear, people say, like, I don't agree with that, or, challenge and debate. And I think that's healthy. But I think it's also in how we are able to come together and work through it too, and then think about, okay, so then if we don't agree, how can we find a path forward, or how can we meet somewhere to move this along based on what it might be? Because I don't plan, and I don't think I'll always be right. But I think that there's a lot of people that have great suggestions, and like we talked about earlier, Mr. Rennick has brought forward a lot of great points, and we need to respect the insights from everyone. So thank you again.
Thanks. Hey, everybody.
Enjoy your walk
Awesome.
today.
Awesome. Thank you. So we're going to head out now. I'm going to just stop recording here.